How are you, folks? I guess from here on out, right? The Enzo Di Cosenzo podcast. I guess that's how we're going to be saying this from now on. But so yeah, so this is our fourth. Is it number four? This would be our fourth time value of money. So in terms of time, let's see what our time looks like. Yeah, I mean we have three hours up, right? So this today will be an hour, so it'll be four. So we'll pretty much have the four YouTube classes for January 2023 covered today. So let's get going with that. Okay, so we dropped off last time here. So this is we're actually also yeah. So what I've decided to do is we'll integrate the PowerPoints. We'll integrate the PowerPoints. So let's do that. Good. We're going to talk about present values today. Now, I think last time we went over the PowerPoints uh, post Excel models. Now we're doing a pre, but all this terminology will be clear as we go through the models. So the value today of a future cash flow, and that's it seems it's very innocent, right? That there's a couple lines here and a little box on the PowerPoint, but that's when you do a valuation for an acquisition, which is what I do. That's it. I mean, cash flow from operations, cash flow from liquidating the firm. Okay, those are all the pieces to this discount factor, and again, that could be a very contentious number. I'm using 8% right now. It could be a lower number. It's what you expect to earn. Basically, it's what you expect to earn if you use your capital for something else. I mean, that's generally what it is. But people sort of, the debt part, the equity part, the cost of debt, the cost of equity. People can go really overboard with that, but it's going to be 5, 6, 7, or 8%. It's going to be one of those, and you could just do a spectrum of valuations and sort of in a grid or like a graph or something, and go through what all of your various discount factors, the results that you would get from that. But the present value of a dollar future payment is really what the discount factor is. There's a discount rate, interest rate. I just talked about this. Discount rate is used to compute present values of future cash flows. Okay, so this is all the finance terminology. A future value after T periods. Again, the math gets a little. You're dividing, and you have an exponent up here. So, and again, how used to the math you guys are. This is a little more than the accounting stuff that a lot of you've seen me work through. But this exponentiation is a big part of economic and finance mathematics and projections and things of that nature. So again, we predict what our 5 years of cash flows will look like, 10 years of cash flows will look like, a perpetuity would look like. Okay, so that's all mathematics that we need for the other chapters in the textbook. Okay, and again, some fancy graphics here. So it says the method for calculating present value by discounting future cash flows. There's generally a couple cash flows. It's 5 years, 10 years, and what I usually do, and I'm doing what I'm doing currently is I gave people the choice of a 5-year horizon, a 10-year horizon, a perpetual horizon. Not liquidating the firm, liquidating the firm. You can do all those various the various pieces to that. Okay, you can do in terms of your valuation. So it's not a boilerplate version of things, and the kind of firm you're looking at, and how much capital expenditure they have. If it's a financial services firm, they're not going to be spending lots on warehouses like Amazon would, or infrastructure or things of that nature. It's not car manufacturing or semiconductor manufacturing where there's an exorbitant capital expenditure cost. Now, as you guys from the past, people who've worked with me in the past know that I say this all the time. We'll discuss some of these problems, but we'll solve these in Excel so it makes sense. I don't expect you to look at, okay, well, 3,000 divided by 1.08 to the second power, and for that to be completely clear from just this little picture on a PowerPoint. But what this basically means is it says you just bought a computer for $3,000. The payments are 2 years the same as cash. And if you can earn 8% of your money, how much money should you set aside in order to make the payment in 2 years? Okay, so what this really means is, now it says you just bought a computer, but then it says, well, the payments are due in okay, well, I guess that there's some sort of now you have to remember when this book was written. This book was written, or this edition was written just post the 2008 financial crisis. So if you were buying televisions and computers in 2009 or 10 or something, you were getting very good deals from the Best Buys and the Dells, and you were getting, no interest financing, and you could pay 2 years down the road and things of that nature. So what this problem is basically saying is you have a $3,000 bill due in 2 years. If you can earn 8%, today, what should you set aside to earn that $3,000? So if you put aside $2,572 today, it earned 8% in a year, and then it earned 8% again in the second year. It'll grow to 3,000. That's what that means. Okay, and we'll go through the math uh, with that in Excel. Now, this is the factor, and I generally never because I just did the math. Okay, I generally don't label things, but I've seen accounting books where they really focus on this whole factor idea and things of that nature. So just keep that. That's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, we're sharing. That 1 plus R to the T is some decimal, some crooked looking decimal that you're not going to memorize, and you got to be able to compute. And you have to remember, when I was a student, we had Excel. We definitely had Excel. But when I taught, we used a lot of calculators at Rutgers. In my 10 years at Rutgers that I spent there, the students used a lot of calculators, but they used Excel too. But now it's obviously much more prevalent, and you can a little more flexibility to work with that. And we'll recreate this. So these are present values. So again, if there's no return, you got to have, if you need $3,000 in 2 years, you got to have $3,000 if you're not going to return any money. And as you look at these numbers, the higher return that you're going to get, the less amount you have to start with. So in other words, if you want to grow to $100 in 2 years, you only need like maybe 70 today. It'll grow at 15%. But if you're only growing at 10%, maybe you need 80. If it only grows at 5%, maybe you need 90. I'm being a little, I'm rounding off a bit, but that's basically what this means. And again, we'll work this out in Excel, and hopefully that it'll be clearer there. And this is drawing a timeline. This is how I remember it from when I was a student at NJIT, how we learned this. But this was um what would yeah, we owed 12,000 in 2 years. So what that means is drawing can help us calculate the present value, the payments and category autos. I have to look up what this problem, but this is one of the application problems. And I don't recall, did you put 8,000 down or time? Yeah, we have to look at the problem with this and sort of what this is. Did you owe 12,000 in 2 years? You put 8,000 down. I think this is something where, yeah, you paid 8,000 up front, and then you owed the 12 later. So yeah, you needed 17 today. So you paid 8,000 down payment, then you needed 9,917 today. That grew, you let that grow to that 12 in a sense. And that so you needed 17. So it was 8,000 up front, and then the 12,000 in 2 years at 10%. Now 10% is very generous returns. So 12,000 in 2 years at 10%. You would need 9,917. So the total cost today was 17,917.36. Okay, this is for car payments. It's just an example you can sort of wrap your hands around. Okay, you wrap your current experiences around. So they say, well, we're acquiring a bank in France. I don't know how much you're going to relate to that. So okay, so yeah, so some of this other stuff. So again, we're going to pick up the rest of these as we go through this. So we did, yeah, the 19 to 20. This morning, I figured them out. How far. So yeah, we're anticipating about 8 or 9 time value of money. So today we're only up to 4, but we're anticipating a bunch of these. That's just those are some of the PowerPoints. Okay, like I said, this is all stuff in the book. Even though I didn't post the PowerPoints, this is all in the textbook. Okay, this is in chapter 5. So just look up the chapter 5 time value of money, and that'll help you see the graphics in there. Okay. Okay. So yeah, so now we're here with this. And if you guys don't mind, what are we doing? So we're up to here with this one, and then even smaller than that. Okay, these just my answers on the side here. Let's not worry about that too much right now. And as we roll through this, so yeah, just like I said in the PowerPoints, we're looking at the present values. This is where you learn what to do. From the Excel is really where you learn how to do all this. Um, the value today of a future cash flow. Again, a very innocent statement for something up for a process and that's very artistic to value an acquisition. And we're going to argue about this, argue about that, right? It's if Stan, yeah, you have to be friends with everybody to do acquisition evaluations, or you have to have a good relationship because it's very it's like a tomato sauce recipe with the Italians, what to do and who puts beer in and who uses pork and who doesn't use pork for the tomato sauce. And it's a very passionate discussion. But the future value or payment T periods away at a discount rate R. So the present value equals the future value after T periods, and you divide by 1 plus R to the T power. Okay. And this is all in the textbook with the discounted cash flow. It's the present value of multiple future cash flows, a discount rate. Again, if you look back at the economics textbook, the opportunity, the chapter with the two people on the island, those are that's algebraically we work through opportunity costs. So in other words, if you've got 30 days to work, are you better cutting timber? Are you better being a farmer? All right, my cousin who's a dentist, he doesn't do everything, right? If you need a root canal, he sends you to somebody. If you need your teeth pulled, he sends you to somebody. His job is to do a crown. His job is to do an implant. He has a very specific set of things that he'll do, and he has a specific set of things that he won't do. Okay, so the discount. So in other words, so he's given up. Now, if you go to the root canal guy, you'll understand, especially today, you'll understand why. I had a couple root canals the last couple of years, and the equipment in there, the scanning, and they're really that's all that these guys do. They do the same thing all day long, all the time, and they're almost at not the atomic level, but they really have tremendous magnifications in terms of what they're doing. So did they get all the nerve out and things of that nature? But it's not cheap equipment. The eye doctor who did, and this is 20 years ago. My mother had cataract surgery. That was probably millions of dollars. The guys in South Orange had millions of dollars of equipment uh, that he worked on. Where he did a lot of things. It was a big operation. He had 6 or 7, ophthalmology offices and a surgery center. So he's got some money that backed up. But again, his whole background is he went to Cornell and he went to Yale Medical School. He did all those kinds of things. We're lucky that we have that he worked on my mom. It was 20 years ago. Her cataracts were perfect. But yeah, so discount rate is opportunity cost, and but specialization is what people generally are gonna focus on. And then again, just same thing from the PowerPoints. The present value of a dollar payment down the road. What is that worth today? Okay, that's basically what that is. All right, so let's start working out some of the models here. So we're just gonna work in this piece of it. This we don't need. And this is just reminding me of what we're doing here. So what are we doing here? We need 3,000 in a year. We need $3,000 in a year. Cost of capital is 8%, and the time period 1 period, a year. Okay, that's what that looks like. Now, there's a couple ways you could determine this. I'm sure you could see the answers here, but here I'll do it like this in Excel, and I want you to be able to compute the math, but in Excel, there is something called the present value formula. It just equals PV. You click on the rate, you click on the number of periods, you're not making any payments, and the future value is 3,000, and the rest of it you don't need. Okay, that's just let's Excel doing all the division for you, and you're just putting in the inputs, and you're going to get $2,777. Now, it's coming out with a parenthesis. It's coming out negative. You're saying, well, what does that mean? Well, what that means is you have to get 3,000 in a year. You've got to put in 2,777 today. So it's the direction, and you have to think of it like a bank account. What goes in the bank account, what goes out of the bank account, or you have to really look at it in that particular that particular matter. Okay. So that's using Excel. We did that using the functions, which I'm showing you how to do that, but here, this is the way I learned how to do it. Equals 3,000 divided by parentheses 1 plus 8%, and then to the exponent of the year. See, here we did the math, and see how it's the same number. Okay, you want to be able to do the math now, but again, you're getting somebody where I was a math professor for a decade. At Rutgers, I was in physics and math and computer science. I was briefly in the business school, but my really in my 20s, when you really learn different things, I learned how to do it this way, and with the math and the exponents. So the little see this little caret sign here, that's exponentiation. But again, how good your math is, I don't know. I get uh, varying abilities with the math. So okay. Yeah, and the other version of this, see, I have this little sort of indicator here, and it says concatenate text files, insert the data. If you look at sort of what we have here, see what says concatenate proof, and there's all sorts of syntax up here. I may have spoken about this in the past, so I'm going to leave that up there just for a second. I'm not going to go crazy discussing this, but what this really means is, you see, look at this 8%. So let me delete this. Keep your eye here, and let me delete the 8%, and watch what happens right there when I do it. Delete. See, this went to 0. See how that's 0 there? And if I'll put the 8% and look right there. Look right there. 8%. All of a sudden now it's 8%. Look at the 1 year. Let's say I make this 25 years. Oh, now this is 25. Okay, that's 25. Undo that, it's back to 1. So in other words, I can link the text in this cell to cells where I enter data, and with the appropriate formatting, percentages or just the number or dollars or euros or something, I can print that. I can get that all taken care of. I can get that all printed out or displayed in Excel. So it says equal concatenate, and then there's an overall parenthesis. Anything in quotes is just text as is. The W22 is the 1 year, right? This is the 1 year. Yeah, the 22 is the 1 year. Okay. The 21 is the 8%. And then it says text, and then there's more quotes here for the formatting. Now, again, this is not necessarily a course in Excel functions, but I've used 2 of them here. I use present value here, and I use concatenate. And actually, I use 3. I use the text function also. But anything that's blocked off in quotes just comes out as is. So if you say concatenate quotes, even though there's a parenthesis, even a parenthesis, even a comma, it'll show it. This is a variable, and that's actually just two variables. This is the 1 year and the 8%. And we formatted some of this stuff. Like I said, you don't have to use concatenate. I'm just showing you that there's a function out there that does it. I've probably explained this in other videos, and I'll explain it again, as we sort of roll through this. But it's nice if you're doing something like this. And folks, and again, I can only communicate, and I said this to the students at Rutgers as I was coming to St. Peter's. I can only give you examples from what I do for a living. I can't sit there and say, oh, well, some other job, or if you work for Merrill Lynch, what it's going to be like, or something. I can't, there's really, I can only speak. I worked at Value Line, and I'm an advisor for private debt and private equity transactions, and I do acquisition valuations, and I have, I don't want to say one customer, but the network that I'm in is a very sort of closed ecosystem. So these guys appreciate my skills, and I do valuations, follow the Federal Reserve news, U.S. Central Bank watcher and observer, and what those guys are saying, and that's what I do for a living. So I can't speak to someone else's experiences, and I know with the Bank of America is a big team of people, and the one person doesn't have one person would not have my responsibilities. There would you'd have a macro person and variations in a macroeconomic person, variations in an acquisition guy, variations in all these different things in a finance person, or you have your own accountants and the legal. I wouldn't go near the legal area, but certainly here I deal with contracts. And so but I also knew what the skill set was and what the demand was. The demand was that the legal function, the accounting function, the finance function, the economics function, the communication, a lot of different functions in a smaller place. But then again, the payday is worth it. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so the more the baseball folks out there, right? Why are there relief pitchers? Okay, fine. Mariano Rivera was unique. Aroldis Chapman was unique. There's some unique guys that we came across in the last 25 years of baseball. But the guys who the Clemens and these people, Andy Pettit, they had multiple pitches, 4 pitches, and variations in the speeds. And those are starting pitchers, and that's why those guys pitched for 20 years. Mariano Rivera did great, but he did great with one pitch that was just uh, unhittable guy for his time. But he did one thing and did one thing only, kind of a situation. I'm more of the starting pitcher. I'm more of a Roger Clemens than a Mariano or Rivera or an Aroldis Chapman or those kinds of people, where I just do a couple things, but do a few things. I'm not at a disadvantage with contracts. I'm not at a disadvantage with valuation. I'm not at a disadvantage with macro analysis or accounting analysis. Excuse me. So, but just keep that in mind. Anyhow, so the proof here, uh, which one was which here? So which one to show how it grows? Yeah. So this is going to be equal to that number times 1. That number, right? 1 plus the rate, which is 8%. And it's just 1 year. So you don't even need to worry about the exponent. Right. So 2,778 grows to $3,000. If we use the Excel function, say equals future value, parenthesis, the rate's 8%, 1 period, no payments, and the present value, you could say minus 2,778. Oops. And we forgot the period somehow. Rate, period, comma. Yeah, like that. There we go. Watch your commas and all that stuff. Watch all that stuff. Okay. 8% a year, no payments involved in this. But eventually there can be like mortgages and things of that nature. There can be, multiple payment models, but that's not what this particular one is. Okay, so that comes out to 3,000. So we looked at this. We looked at it a couple. We want to get 3,000. We showed you what the present value is, and then we did a little bit of a verification with it. Let's do the same problem now, but now we're looking at 2 years version, right? That's 3,000, 2 years, 8%. Right, all that. So we and again, it's all, and again, my wish, I always hope that you guys would make these models and not just rely on my templates, and you guys would do all the typing and all the work yourself. But that's for whatever reason, it didn't seem to want to materialize at St. Peter's for some reason. So you can utilize these templates, but you should, it organizes how you're looking at things. Okay, this really organizes how you're looking at things. So here, let's use sort of the NJIT way of looking at this. So we have 3,000 that we want in 2 years. You're dividing it by 1 plus 8%, and now to the second power, you got to use the exponent, right? Because it's 2 years out. So now notice with this number though, it's 2,572. Okay, so in other words, to get to 3,000 over 2 years, not 1 year, you need a little bit less starting capital because it's going to grow you have more time horizon. You're going to grow over 2 years. Okay, the Excel version, and here to get the present value, you could say negative present value to get rid of that negative number if you wish. The rate's 8%, number of periods are 2 years, no payments, and then the future value is 3,000. I put the negative in front of it. See, I put the little negative in front, so you didn't have this negative. But you have to know your directions. Know what. Don't just say, oh, well, it's negative, and that's kind of it. People want this stuff explained. Okay, especially in the private area where it may not be somebody who's entirely versed in all this. Okay, and you can't make people feel silly either. Okay, you can't go to somebody who's a billionaire and go, oh, hey, moron, why don't you understand this? I mean, you can't really do that. Okay, you have to explain what you're doing here. So Okay, so let's grow the number. Let's take our 2,572 times 1 plus 8%. And now this is you could do it to 2 years, or you could do this. You just put another factor in. That's the same. That's the same as 1 plus 8% squared. See how it's 3,000? See? Or you could say 1 plus 8% to the second power. Okay. This is the Excel. This is a future value. Remember the future value? Okay. The rate is 8%, 2 periods, no payments, and the present value is 2,572. Okay. That should grow to, and here you can make this negative, right, for what you got to put into it. So it bounces out like that. Okay. It's that formula, right? 3,000 divided by 1 plus 8% to the second power. This is the Excel, right? With all of the appropriate inputs, the 8%, the 2 years, no payments. And you've got to try this stuff. You've got to try it. And this is just 2,572 times 1 plus 8% squared. Okay. The longer time frame, what's the conclusion? Longer time frame, you need less initial capital to achieve the goals. And the capital works for a longer period of time. Okay. That's what that means. Then it says to work out how much you'll have in the future if you invest for 2 years at an interest rate of R, multiply the initial investment by 1 plus 1 plus R to the T power. So that's a very general way. And for the present value, you divide; for the future value, you multiply by that factor. But again, you got to get a sense of how that all happens. Okay. The next one is, yeah, this is the same thing, but we do that. We expand it a bit. So and now we give you the specific problem. This problem says you owe Dell $3,000 in a year. You owe Dell 3,000 in a year, and this is 8%. Which is that. Okay. And now we're using discount factor, a third version of what the old what do we need today version of this. So if you guys recall, all you did before was take 3,000 divided by 1 plus. This is the same thing, 8%, and then just to the first power. 2,777, right? That's direct computation. Excel, right? Present value, parenthesis, 8%, a year, no payments, future value 3,000. Okay, so again, we keep getting the same number, so it's the same thing as we had up here. But there's a third way now. It says, you see using discount factor? The factor is equal to 1 divided by 1 plus the rate to 1 year. There's your factor. So in other words, you need 92% of what you're looking for to get the 3,000. So then all you do is you just say, here, you could do like this, product. Just use the product function. Those two. And you see how you get 2,778? You just put the product of the discount factor and the future value. And this other stuff, this is just all the same stuff. This is just equal to future value. But again, we want to repeat with it a bunch of times. The number of periods, no payments, and the present value of that from direct computation. Okay, so you have to put down 3,000 today. And then the other version of this is just take this direct computation. You guys remember this, right? 1 plus, we just did it. 8%, that's just a year. Whoops. And this was right there. Okay, 3,000. Okay. 2,777 times 1 plus 8% in a year turns into $3,000. But the new wrinkle in this is the discount factor. So you need 92% of what you projected you would need in a year from now today. Okay, that's all that really is. This one does it again. I don't know why I have it again here. Um, yeah. So again, starting with this problem, you need 3,000 in a year, so you need 2,778 today. But now you have a 2-year version of this, right? This is a 2-year version of this at 8%. That's a 2-year version of this at 8%. And again, you want 3,000. So now you're going to compare. So for a year out, you need 2,777. For 2 years out, you're probably going to need less. Somehow, wait, somehow this was computed here. Yeah, so we had the math here. Yeah, we had this. We had the 2-year math on this already. Okay, so this is 3,000 divided by 1 plus 8% to the second power. So yeah, so instead of needing 2,777, you only need 2,572. So you need maybe 80% of the capital. So here, let's do the discount factor, which is the new part of this. And you're just making one payment. You're not doing multiple payments. It's just one payment. So yeah, so you with the discount factor, you would need 85% of the capital. Okay, so 85% of the capital is 3,000 times that your discount factor. Yeah, that's 2,000. So using multiple methods, we're getting the same number. And then the final the real check is the present value of 8% at 2 years, no payments, and the future is 3,000. So yeah, you'd have to put down 2,572. You could do the proof, you could do all the different versions of this. And our conclusion here, yeah, our conclusion with this thing is that, for 2 years out, you need 2,572. For 1 year out, you needed, 2,777. And the proofs are the same. This is all. I'm not going to keep repeating these. This is just. And you can do it to the second power. Okay. Is that's just right? 2,772 times 1 plus 8%. Okay, so look at how everything's computed here, and again, you guys sit and try these out, yourselves. Okay, every time, right? And we can see a little bit better like this. And this is just the Excel function equals future value parenthesis 8%, 2 years, no payments, and the future is that. Yeah, there's your 3,000. All right, so we've done this 4 times, right? And save your work as you go. You always want to save your work. Okay, you always want to save your work as you go. Okay, now we're getting to this other stuff here. It says interest rates are higher, time horizons are longer, less initial capital is needed. True. The capital appreciates at higher rates and works for longer periods of time. It will appreciate to the goal. Discount factors decrease interest rates and increase the time. As I'm saying, discount factors decreases as interest rates increase in time invested in. So more time, higher interest rate, you need less initial capital. So it'll be less of a percentage of what you need up front, is what that really means. So we did something similar to this with the 1, 2, all that stuff, all those tables. So here, instead of us reinventing the wheel here, excuse me, folks. Yeah, we'll just drop in. Is it the same number? Yeah, it's the same years. All right, 1 to 30 is all that is. Okay, now the difference. Now also, you're going to be what you're going to be looking at is yeah, do we do the same numbers across? Well, we're reusing a bit. Nothing wrong with reusing. Here's the rates. There you go. 5 to 10%. Remember this table? So now what we're gonna work on with this is we're gonna say, okay, how much of that dollar do we need at 5% in a year, 5% in 10 years, 5% in 20 years? How much of that dollar do we need today? And you can see the answers. You need 23 cents if you're gonna leave it for 30 years today to turn into $1 in 3 decades. You need 23 cents today. That's what that means. if you're just you want $1 a year from now at 5%, you need 95 cents today. That's what that means. Equals parenthesis 1 plus the rate. And what we'll do, we'll say a negative number of years, right? So what this means mathematically is instead of saying 1 over 1 plus 5%, 1 plus 5% to the negative 1 is the same as 1 over 1 plus 5% to the first power without the negative in front of the exponential number. All right, so just to put it in one line to make it easier. But we could just as easily do it like this. We could say equals 1 divided by excuse me, folks. I'm sorry. I'm getting over something a little bit. You probably can tell that, right? That's 90%. So either way, that works. Okay, that works either way. Excuse me, folks. I'm sorry. But yeah, so you see how that goes? Now, as we've discussed before, you can't just you just can't just code in here and then just do this. Oh, fill down, right? I'll go over, right? You can't do all that because those amounts, you can see the numbers aren't matching our answers. Okay, so something, right? We have to anchor. We have to anchor what we're talking about here. So here, let's use this version with the negative. I know it's a little bit tougher, but here, let's go across with this. Okay, as you go across all these percentages, the columns move, but the row is locked. So you're locked into row 107. Okay. With the exponentiation, you want the row to move, but the column to be the t. Okay, which is that. So what you'll do is you can just do it like this. Control D, Control R. And there you go. In a microsecond, however long that took to do, you created the correct table. So in other words, based on our table, 30 years, 10%, you need 5 cents today. If you're going to want to turn that into $1, you need 5 cents. If you want to turn it into a dollar at 10% in a year, you need 90 cents today at a higher rate. As opposed to 5%, as opposed to 5% change, you need 95 cents, which is bigger. 95 cents is bigger than 90. Okay, so the less time, the less. So these will be higher numbers. These will be the lower numbers. You need 14 cents in 20 today. You need 14 cents today to turn $1 into turn 14 cents into $1 for in 20 years at 10%. You need 14 cents today. That's what that means. Okay, so you created your table. And again, what are you locking? You lock the row and you lock the column. That's that little dollar sign. So when you copy and paste, even if you're here, it keeps referring to column T, row whatever, row X, whatever it might be, a row 107, right? Whatever that might be. Okay, but again, you got to get comfortable with Excel and you got to sit and try to work through these. There's another one here. This is $100. And this will be 1 year, added 1, added 2, and then from the 4 all the way down to 20, Control D, up to 20 years by 2. And I forget why we highlighted something. I forget why. There's probably some problem somewhere that asked for that 0.73. Somewhere we're asked for that someplace. But let's not worry about that right now. Okay, so now you're talking about 100, not just $1 anymore, but $100. Okay. After give number of years for several interest rates. Okay, and actually, what's better here is to do this. And you're looking at you're looking at 0%, 5%, 10%, 15%, right? We just enter those. Okay. I hard coded this. The best thing to do would have been to just like maybe in here someplace and to do this. The best thing would have been to do it like this. right? You hard coded it in there like that, or reference yourself. So equals 100 a year from now divided by 1 plus that rate, and then the exponent, whatever that the number of years are. Okay. And again, if you just try to, just do everything here, control RD, you can see nothing's really, you're not really getting answers. So let's look at it like this. You want to lock in the row for the percentages. So that's row 127. You want to lock in the column, the T, but let the row move for the exponent. And then for the 100, you should lock both because you're moving sort of all over the place. So what you do is control R. See, all of a sudden now, 86, 90. So what it means is, if for a year from now, if you have an investment vehicle that's 15% return, all you need is $86 today. That'll turn into 100 a year from now if you could invest at 15% for 1 year. That's what that means. And you can do this. This is kind of the terrible way to do it, but I'll just show you. You just grab that little corner. Oops. You grab this little corner. It should come all the way down with you like that. But here, this is the best way. Control RD like that. That's the best way. Okay, so in other words, so again, 20 years, 15% vehicle, 100, you need $6 today, and you'll have whatever the multiple of that is. It'll turn into 16 times your money in 10 years at 15%, right? That's 16 times your money. You come with $6, you have 100. Okay, and then some of the other ones are a little tighter. Obviously, the reason these are all hundreds are you have no return. So even if you have a vehicle where there's nothing's appreciating, right? Then obviously you better have the cash in there, and that's it. 'Cause it's never going to appreciate. These are a little more realistic. Let's say 5%. So again, you want to double your money. Come with $55, and in 12 years you'll have 100. Right? That's what that means. So these are the present values today to get to $100. That's what this means. So the present value of the future cash flow is equal to 100. Uh, Flow of 100 equals future payment divided by 1 plus R to the T power. Okay. And I think what we did, yeah. And you saw this in the PowerPoints. So here, let's look at it like this. We'll take this. We'll say insert. Let's do lines. Nice smooth line. Chart layout. All right. You click on this, and actually here, this thing, cut this. Bring it down here. This is this. There's design, select the data, edit X is there, and this is R equals 5.0%, right? Yeah, a little more. And what did these guys do with this? That's their red one. Right, that's their red one. So what is this? This is control A. This is present value of a $100 compounded at and you can expand this a bit. Right. See? Yeah, these are 18. This is 18. Whatever. And you want to put a border around this. Do a nice gray border or something like that. Okay. So what did we do with this? We did it the number of years for 5%. And then we could do the same thing. We could say, actually, here, let's put a border around the graph. So now the graph is bounded a bit. Make this a little bit bigger. These are down here. This is number of years. Spell it right. And you can bring the font down on that down on that a bit. And this is present value of $100. Okay, which is that. Yeah, you're not going to 25. That's for sure. So I can format this axis. And so it says maximum. You need 25. I did 21. And major unit, you can go by a year instead of 5 years. You could do that, something like that. Okay. And this all the way. Okay. See, very quickly, right? Very quickly. And here, do a shadow. The preset, do a shadow. Grid line, style, dash it. Okay. And you go vertical too. Let's see, grid line, vertical, major, right? I did a cross version of this style cut. Okay. Something like that. And let's do also on this, let's do right click, select data. We're going to add. This is the same 1 to 20 for the X. This is the 100, all those years. And this is R equals 0.0%. Okay, this is a blue one. So we can outline this in one of our blues if we want. Okay. And with this, format the vertical axis, the major unit, we want them by $10 pieces, and the maximum, not 120, but 110. Okay. You get 5%, 0%. Let's do 10% now. Again, select the data, add X. This is the same 1 to 20. This is this thing. That's 10%, right? This is R equals 0%. Okay. That's your whatever, your 10% one. I think it's these, they list the legend based on, even though the 0 is before the R, the 5%, they list it based on the order that you put them in. And then the last one is going to be select the data, add 1 to 20 years. This is R equals 15%. This and hit okay. Okay. That's the green one. Okay. Or the purple one, pardon me, the purple one. So you can see you need less initial capital the higher the rate. That's really what this means. 10. This is 5. Okay. But you can see very quick. And again, this, you do your valuations. This is useful for people to take a look at stuff like this. Okay. That's a useful thing for people to take a look at. Okay. So again, and you got to be careful in your conversations with people. You can't say, "Oh, hey, why don't you know this? Why don't you know that?" Kind of a thing. You want to, you want to come across well with people, right? You don't want to come across as the sort of the know-it-all. Being a know-it-all is good, but just people sort of don't want to know that you know it all, kind of a thing. I've learned that over the years. That's some good advice. Okay, that's some good advice. So. It says small variations in the interest rate can have a powerful effect on the valuation of distant cash flows. At a 5% rate, a payment of $100 in 10 years is worth $37.69 in today's values. Where is that? 37.69. Yeah. And you're comparing that, right? 37.69. If the rate increases to 10%, uh, the payment falls to 14. Yeah, they're just comparing. Say, okay, as you increase that rate, you need less initial capital. And it says it falls by 60% to 14. Well, what's the delta here? What's the delta? And then divided by, yeah, 61%. Yeah, about 60%. So sure. So you're going to cut this. That doesn't need to be bold, right? This could just be percentages. Yeah. We did the delta, right? We did the change in those. So this is whatever. This is down by uh, 22 less or something divided by the 37. It's down by about 60%. So yeah, we computed we did the math on that. Just put on a box and save that. Okay. So what does this say? So yeah, here this is just we're doing the specific examples, because I promised myself we would the Italy thing we'd pick that up on the next video. So yeah, so what this is you have two versions of this. You got a 5% version in 20 years, and you have a 10% version in 20 years. And you want something to grow to 100. Right. So that's where you start with these, right? And again, I have the same sort of little computational block here, and I think it'd be in your best interest that you guys just sort of get used to working in these little blocks. I think it'll help you to do that. Okay. Okay. So you have those two problems there. Okay. And again, you want it to turn into 100, turn into 100. And like I said, so we didn't do the factor method. So what do you have to initially come with to do this? Well, if you want things to turn to 100, right, and it's 1 plus 5%, and you have 20 years of a time horizon, you can come with $37.69. That's what you can come with this. And now, since we did all that typing here, this is all lined up in the same way. Watch where I can just say copy and just drop that formula into there. Now that's the 1486. At T0 means today. T is 20 years from now. Same thing with there. T is so again, get used to all that kind of thing. So I'm sort of doing these problems at the same time here. We can check with the Excel stuff, rate, number of years, no payments, and want this to be 100. I don't know why that's red, but okay, it's currency. Fine. Well, it shouldn't be currency, but as accounting, we did this as an accounting. Okay, 37.69, and then I can just bring it down there, 14.86. So you need to put that into $14 or $37, depending on the 5% or 10% vehicle. And these are just the checks. Oh yeah, and funny, we did the change down here. Okay, we did the change down here. So equals parenthesis. So this is going to be 37 minus the 14 divided by the 37. So yeah, I did it up top for you guys, but we did it down here too. See, that's just the delta in dollars, the dollar delta. So how much less you need? $22 less. That's about 60% less of what you were looking at before, right? So if you had um let's see, copy paste equals this times 60% of that. That's the delta. Yeah, it's the delta. So this is going to be 1 minus that. Yeah. All right, so you need 40% of your of what you initially needed, right? Because the 14 over this is that's the 40% version. This is equal to this divided by that. Yeah, so you only need 40%. You could go bananas with that stuff. If 40% of 60% of whatever it might be, right? You could go bananas with that stuff. This is just the proof. This thing, and this is the same man. So we're doing this stuff over and over and over again. So hopefully you guys are expert at this. So that grows to $100, right? And it's just one payment. You have to remember that it's just one payment. And then the same thing here, right? That'll grow. So that's the 14 that grows to 100 or 20 years at 10%. And this is future value is the rate, comma the years, comma no payments, comma the present value is 100. No, the present value is not 100. The present value is that. Yeah, that turns into 100. And whatever. You could do negative with that. Okay. And then copy this thing, and you get the same. And why do I have this again? Yeah, this is just I'm just giving you the answer. I'm just saying the answer is, and put it in bold numbers, I suppose, right? And copy this thing. But you can see all we're really talking about here, and we verified it with the table, we verified it with the graphic, is that, when you have different potential investment situations with the same time horizon, obviously you need less capital to appreciate to your goal if you have a higher interest rate. That's all. And so I think so. What I looked at the Federal Reserve notes from the morning or from December, I looked at them this morning. We might have 5% interest rates, and they might not be going down until 2024. So if you want to do, let me tell you, if you want to do fixed income, um, if you want to start doing some fixed income, it might be a pretty good time to do that. But again, I take no responsibility for your financial returns. I'm just telling you that to me, it's looking like that. So yeah, and I know we turned off the share here, but then we have some Italian stuff here, and we're going to repeat a little bit. We'll use euros or something like that, and so and then we have the vehicle choice. There's a couple different vehicle choices here. Finding some interest rates. Okay, so we have a few more examples here. So I think we did a good number of examples for today. We didn't go too long, and yeah. So and like I said, so you guys, build up your graphs, build up your little calculator segments. Okay, and really try to get a head start on what's going on here. Okay. All right, folks. The Enzo Di Costanzo podcast. Right, we're done for the day. We'll see you probably Wednesday. We'll see you next time.